So for today's second episode in Australia, we'll be covering the brown tree snake. I reckon I'm about to say that phrase a little too many times, so be prepared. And spoiler alert, maybe a bit of a peek into Bali as well. So the brown tree snake is actually incredibly cool. One of my favorite snakes to have encountered here in Australia. It's always a treat to find more of them, and fairly common find as well, so makes things pretty well going in that respect. We're out here at night, which is the appropriate time to encounter the brown tree snake. They're nocturnal, as well as arboreal, but half the time you don't gotta go poking around in a tree to find them. Thankfully, they're very opportunistic. And, they gotta move around from tree to tree at some point. It's really amazing as how they've been introduced to different locations. It's also amazing as the change in toxicity of their venom across populations and even across age of the same specimen. When they're little and they're the neonate, they have a venom that's much more toxic to lizards because they eat more of those when they're littler. As they get older, they move over to preying more on mammals and birds, and the chemical makeup of their venom changes accordingly. It's quite fascinating. And the way that their medical significance is so different in different areas in which they live. Here in Australia, their venom is basically considered to be all but a joke, completely medically insignificant to adult. And in other places as well, they haven't really done significant damage to adults, but they have managed to put children on life support. And if they can do that, that same individual with a good bite could probably at least make your day pretty bad as an adult, or worse depending on your pre-existing conditions. Luckily, they have a poor venom delivery system, so it's hard for them to get a decent amount of venom into somebody. So I think their venom's probably a bit stronger than given credit for. It's just they're never really able to get a good envenomation into you. It's probably just, especially in some of these other countries, maybe younger children left alone in a play area or something where the snake really just latches on and just keeps chewing and really works that venom in from that Devorney's gland. Because the last two teeth in their mouth, the last fangs on either side, are the ones that have a groove in them for facilitating the delivery of venom. But that only happens through chewing and capillary action anyway. It's a very poor delivery system. There's a lot that's fascinating about them in the different parts of the world they can be found in. They actually wound up being accidentally introduced to Guam shortly after World War II, where their populations have exploded and they've hit population sizes not seen anywhere else in the world. In Guam, where they've been introduced, they've caused such a panic and giant uproar and trouble that people have started looking into potentially introducing natural predators to get rid of them. And out of 50 some odd what predators that were suggested, only 2 were confirmed to actually predate on the brown tree snake in its native range. The 2 that do this, that have been confirmed to do this, are the red-bellied black snake and, well, the cane toad. So, luckily, they scrapped ideas of introducing either of them. But the fact that that was even thought through seems nuts to me, because they're both creatures that may opportunistically feed on a brown tree snake or 2. But a cane toad isn't really going to feed on an adult brown tree snake very readily. And everybody already knows introducing cane toads anywhere is just a terrible idea. Don't do it or make that mistake again. And then red-bellied black, sure, may opportunistically eat something, but I don't know on what basis. It's not even something I think of as being a main thing on their diet. Evidently somebody just saw one eat one day, as far as I can tell. Luckily though, people are smart enough now not to do that. Though I still think in the explanation they downplayed how stupid either one of those things would have been. And how little it even fucking made sense. And how little it even made sense. So normally when it comes to talking about the scientific names of the animals, I wind up getting into something about what it means in Latin or how it's based off some, Greek god or legend. But in this case, I'm happy to tell you, it's as simple as Bauge regularis. Just weird-ass cat snake. Boaga being cat snake, and then, well, irregularis, frickin' irregular. But I love them in all their irregularity. They're one of my favorite snakes to come across here, and they're very common and have a decent amount of variety, so I think it's quite nice. What's really amazing when it comes to them, especially as an invasive species, is how great of a job they've done taking places over. Like in Guam, their population has dropped from what it used to be. But even now, it's still sitting above carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is given environment's capacity to, well, obviously carry the species. It's the maximum amount at which their population peaks and sustainability and all that. And it's still above that. And to think it used to be higher is nuts. There are as many as 12 to 20 specimens per acre in Guam. And of some of the biggest brown tree snakes you'll find anywhere, up to around 10 feet in length. It's pretty incredible. Later, we should find some specimens to show you. For now, while we wait to get to the next part of the segment, I'm going to continue to think about how hilarious it is that the U.S. military has trained service dogs just to keep these things out of Hawaii. They're getting in everywhere. One even made it as far as Texas once. So today we're going to be talking about the brown tree snake, one of my favorite snakes here in Australia. Actually, the first snake I had the pleasure of coming across. I find that a lot of people that go out looking for animals seem to underappreciate them because they're so common, but they have a fairly diverse color palette, and you can come across them on a regular basis, and they're always a joy for me. They have such different colors, such an attitude, the way they'll kind of draw back and be ready just to have a go at you. And it's kind of fun. They're venomous, but not particularly strongly, so it's just enough to kind of make you not want to get bit, while not being enough to feel like, oh, this is gonna really mess me up for a while or anything. Just enough to kind of give you a bit more respect for them as being a real Australian snake. He sees my hand here and he's not too happy about it. He sees that as a threat, so he's kind of come back, getting into defensive posture to where he could do something about it if he needs to, and he's hissing at me. Luckily, he only thinks that part of me is a tree. So, that hand's safe. This hand in my face, he might have a go at. But it's kind of raining a bit and getting a little chilly, so he's not going to have the most energy. I think they're just a lovely snake, though. I never get tired of seeing them, looking at them, and just experiencing them in the environment. Though because of how common they are and how drab some of them can be, a lot of times I feel they go underappreciated. And this is kind of a more plain looking example, more of a textbook brown tree snake. A lot of the others in this area have far more vibrant colors. They're almost an orange. I'm sure I can get some examples to show of that. Well, as promised, here's some video of the more orange, characteristic Townsville-like variants. This footage comes courtesy of the Shaky Cam Express, seeing as it was filmed on my SLR and I currently have no real effective way of stabilizing that camera. And on top of that, I was also filming on a permanently zoomed in to 60 millimeters macro lens. All of this to say, well, this footage is kind of a shit show. But regardless, this is still a very beautiful animal, and I just hope you can appreciate it as much as I can. Great snake. They're a species of cat snake, which makes it kind of interesting because there's also the common tree snake, which is also a colubrid. These guys are colubrid as well. But the common tree snake isn't in the cat snake family with these guys, and the common tree snake also possesses no venom. These guys do have venom. But again, like I said, not particularly strong. They're also rear fanged, so they really have to have a solid go at you to get that venom in you. Just whack their mouth wide open with that momentum and those rear fangs into you, and then kind of chew to get it in. So for an adult of decent size, your body will take care of it pretty well, but also you're not going to let the snake chew and get all that venom into you, so you shouldn't feel too much effect. I'm looking at my fingers there. You're okay, buddy. Don't bite my fingers. There you go. These snakes are kind of funny. They don't always have the go at you in that real strike fashion like I was talking about. They'll kind of push their nose up against you like, what's this? It smells kind of like it could be food, and start kind of opening their mouth. Or maybe it's because they're stressed and they're kind of in that attitude to bite. I don't know. But they'll do it and it's weird. But again, they're rear fanged, so it's unlikely to really get a solid envenomation in you that way, as long as you can react and move them away during that accordingly. Just a beautiful little snake that I'm always happy to see. Well, let's get more into it and learn more about what makes these little guys so cool. I'd like to take this opportunity to show you the snake a little bit closer up. It really is a beautiful little snake, and it's fun to watch just the way they interact and process the world. And you can see him flicking his tongue in and out there, using that forked tongue to taste the air and bring it back and process it with his Jacob's organ in there on the roof of his mouth. And he's just looking all around, tasting, and you could see there a second ago the way he kind of angled his jaw downward. That's that behavior they do half the time when they're about to just open their mouth and just be like, hey, maybe this tastes good. They are an arboreal snake. You can really see evidence of that in some of the ways they move around. They're really able to support large sections of their body being held completely off of whatever it is they're holding on to. And this works really well for them, being able to go from one tree to the next or one branch to the next without always having to go to the ground first. Though, like I'd stated before, they are opportunistic predators. They will go to the ground and do that for more than just moving tree to tree. They will actually forage for prey on the ground, and it seems to be a rather effective method for them. I think being effective opportunists is one of the keys to their survival, and just having such a thick population around here. Oh, look at him. Look at him. Look. Oh. And he had a nice little go. These guys tend to get kind of agitated sometimes. They calm down pretty well as well. Luckily, this guy's behaving a lot more than a lot of them do. You'll get a lot that are just constantly going. Like this guy here, I'm agitating him and he's still not going too much. Just look at it, look at it. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. Nah. Guess he's just gonna leave it alone now. Here you can see one foraging around on the ground, just as home here as he is up in the trees. If they weren't such good opportunists, they certainly wouldn't be creating all the trouble they are down in Guam. I suppose to be fair, though, I should also clarify that a big part of what they've been doing damage to in Guam is the native bird population, and that they've been straight up decimating, but that clearly takes advantage of their arboreal strengths, not their ground foraging. In Australia, they've got a quite varied diet, especially as an adult. They'll eat bats, other small mammals, birds, and then, continue to prey upon some reptiles as well, but generally they have more of a reptile-based diet when they're younger. As evidenced by the changing venom that I've mentioned before as well, which is really quite interesting. I think that over time their venom changes with their food preferences. There you could see me take my finger and put it in front of him for a second. He was looking at my thumb like it looked tasty. And he keeps going down again, being like, oh, let's eat this. And I keep stopping him and trying to distract him. You can only distract these guys for so long, though, before they decide to have a taste.
when over in Bali, I got a pretty good first-hand account of how hard it is for a rear-fanged snake to actually get a solid envenomation in. When we were out there were actually two old guys out there with us who had made a trip down there to go look for reptiles as well, aged 60 and 75. And one of them was out grabbing a rare color morph of a mangrove cat snake. It was actually a black and white variant. They're pretty cool. Had the treat of seeing it and getting to play with it. But when he grabbed it, this guy took a nice big whack at him. Really grabbed a hold and chewed and held on for a while. But still didn't seem to get a real envenomation in. So, rear-fanged snakes. Decent at eating and digestion with their venom, but not super great at chasing off potential predators with it. Or at least not when it comes to curious hairless apes. Not to say that all rear-fanged colubrids are quite so benign. There are a few that pack a little bit of a punch, but that's beyond the scope for today. We'll get to them another time. There's still a lot more interesting to say about these guys. It seems the more I look into them, the more interesting little bits of things that I find. But, again, I think that's a bit beyond the scope of today's dig. Look forward to another video at some point in the future. I'm sure I'll revisit these guys with a much more deep dive. So, here in a second, I want you to keep an eye out on his head. He's coming in over here, and you see, I thought he was just taking a drink. He starts to lick me, and I think he's licking all the water droplets off of me because, hey, it's sprinkling and he's probably thirsty. But no, he was tasting me, and he'll be opening his mouth to take a bite here in a second. And when the snake goes to take a bite out of you, I guess that's when you know they're about done, and they're ready for their 15 minutes of fame to be over with. I'll tell you guys, though, I had been seriously contemplating the idea of letting one of these guys get an actual bite in on me, just so I could comment on what it's actually like. I've only heard hearsay on what it's like, and it really seems to be all over the place. I reckon if you let them get an actual good bite in with a decent amount of venom injected, that it'd probably be fairly unpleasant, but nothing too earth-shattering. Theoretically, the toxicity of these guys' venom, well, obviously it varies on what they're eating. When they're a neonate and their venom is geared toward reptiles, they can have a LD50 on reptiles as low as about 1. So that's pretty reasonable. That's about as toxic as a rattlesnake is to humans. But the average idea of what their LD50 should be on, say, humans is about 10. So 10 milligrams per kilogram of body weight to kill 50% of a tested population. And a regular adult has a yield of about 30 milligrams. So as you can see, pretty far off from being able to really do anything to a adult human. Hell, it makes you wonder how they hurt the youngsters in Guam. But it goes back to what I was saying. I really think their venom's probably stronger than people give them credit for. It's just their delivery system is so bad that it creates the impression their venom's really weak. Not that it isn't really weak, but I mean, if it's putting children on life support with enough injected, the LD50's gotta be a good deal stronger than it's said to be. That, or maybe that locality has a, much stronger venom, or maybe the people in that area have an acute sensitivity to it. I really don't know. Interesting to look at. I'll get into it better later with more detail when I come back, and I'll probably do like a 45-minute deep dive into these guys after a while. And I'll include the other color morph variety of these guys that even tends to prefer a different habitat. They're known as the night tiger. They have a very striking light and dark banded coloration across them. I'll be awfully excited to see one of those and to post all about it. Well, at this point I'm just kind of rambling on and on about stuff you can't see now. So, as we close this, I'll give you a preview of some of those mangrove snakes I was telling you about. Here's the typical yellow and black coloration. Oh, what a treat it was to see these guys in Bali as well as all the other great stuff there. It was truly magical. More videos to come on that, hopefully. And then after this clip, you'll get to see the rare black and white color morph. A lot of people will specifically go out of their way to Bali just to find this beauty right here in all his black and white glory. This the same one that took the chunk out of the other guy that was out there with us, Thumb. Luckily, he somehow had no symptoms from it. I guess no venom was injected. Well, anyway, I know this was a rather long episode that wasn't really that dense on information. I appreciate you sticking around to the end, and as always, thanks for watching.
Oh, well, I see you're still here. Thank you for watching to and past the end. I've got a few things to talk about. You got a minute? The video that you just saw was filmed, edited, and narrated, all without a script, all on my old cell phone. And it was intended for my old YouTube channel, but I managed to forget the password, so I've been forced to rebrand. This is where I need your help to get off to a good start. Please smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, share if you're feeling inclined. Hell, if you're feeling frustrated by me, feel free to smash that dislike button. All engagement is good engagement, and I need as much as I can get at this point. As you can see from this awesome editing rig behind me, I've been investing heavily in getting better equipment to produce higher quality content. So I'm excited to tell you that I'll be doing a countdown of my old videos being released one per day, all leading up to when I will be releasing fresh new content produced with my better hardware. I'm excited to see you there. For a better / longer explanation of what's really going on around here, please click this video. Anyway, I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending it with me. Thanks for watching, and I genuinely hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Anyway, real talk right now, I actually really do need your help here at the beginning, so please smash that subscribe button, do all the things, tell some friends about it if you're willing. That would be awesome. You're absolute legends. Have a wonderful day.